Hi, I'm Jami Brown with the Muncie Police Department Domestic Violence Unit.
And I'm Tori Kirkman, the Domestic Violence Unit Coordinator. This presentation is over teen dating violence and unhealthy relationships. The definitions are: teen dating violence is defined as the physical, sexual, psychological, or emotional aggression within a dating relationship. Domestic violence itself is defined as violent or aggressive behavior within the home, typically involving the violent abuse of a spouse or a partner. This could also be an ex-boyfriend, an ex-girlfriend, ex-husband, ex-wife, things of that nature. We want to point out that unhealthy relationships can start early and last a lifetime because you guys are younger and you're in these first new relationships, and this could last for the rest of your life.
And actually, this stage in your life is when a lot of times these things start happening. And that kind of leads us into the red flag area of an unhealthy relationship. So this is one of my favorite topics to go over. And so red flags are just like basically indicators quickly that'll start in the beginning of a relationship to show you in some capacity of what's going on and where this relationship is going. Because these things are the beginning, but it always gets worse if you're in a relationship with someone like this. So everything in the relationship starts off at a really, really fast pace. They'll start telling you they love you. They'll start wanting to engage in sexual activity with you. They'll want to spend all their time with you. They'll be very pushy and very possessive of you and your time. They'll not want you to spend time with your friends. They'll get upset. They'll pout. If you want to go to a basketball game or you want to go to a play, they'll get upset because you're not with them, you're with your friends. And then they'll maybe start alienating your friends and saying that they don't like your friends and they don't want you to be with that particular person, even when your friend is an okay person and is a good friend to you and has been a friend to you for a while. So these kinds of things start off and, like I said, are really good indicators for a toxic type relationship. They'll start controlling you, whether it be body shaming, whether it be comparing you to someone else who they perceive looks better or is smarter than you. They're going to belittle you. They're going to make fun of you in front of their friends, put you down. I dealt with a victim one time. She was actually a teenager, where her boyfriend, thank God it's now an ex-boyfriend, used to make fun of the size of her breasts. And so you'll have these people who are basically just diminishing you and taking away any kind of self-esteem that you have. They'll be very jealous of you, like I already mentioned, not wanting you to spend time with your friends, which this is something else that you need to kind of look at too, is this relationship you have. How do your friends, how do your family members feel about this person that you're with? Is there some kind of drama going on between the two of them? Are they trying to alienate you from each other? These things, if you were involved in a healthy relationship, are not going to be an issue. If you're involved in a healthy relationship with someone, they're going to want you to prosper, to be better, to support you through bad times, and basically be there for you. They're not going to respect your personal boundaries. They may want to know your location on your phone all the time, who you're with, where you're at, what you're doing. They're going to know your password. They're going to want to know your password to your phone. They're going to know your password to your emails, to your Twitter account. They're going to keep an eye on everything and then may even make comments to you about, you know, your Snapchat. If you're friends with opposite sex, are they going to start making accusations of cheating or flirting or talking to that person? So those are things also you need to kind of be mindful of. Name calling, just the typical name calling. You know, I don't need to go over what name calling is. I think you all know at this point what I'm talking about. The body shaming, I've already touched on that. Just making you feel insecure about who you are. And using forms of communication as punishment. Next slide, please.
There's different types of abuse. Like she had stated the red flags. I'm just going to go into detail a little more about which each one means. So physical abuse, it's very important to remember it does not always leave a mark. I think we think of physical abuse as like punching, slapping, hitting, kicking, and those are all very important types of physical abuse. But there's also the pulling of the hair, which usually will not leave a mark. Grabbing of the clothing or not allowing you to leave a certain place or a room. And then the obvious ones that I just mentioned. Next slide. Sexual abuse. I think the main example that we wanted to touch base on is the saying, "If you love me, you would." I think this happens mostly in middle school and high school relationships now, and you should never feel pressured into having a sexual relationship with your boyfriend or girlfriend, and that's something that is really not okay, and I think that's a huge red flag of that statement. You or your partner should never use love as a way to get something sexual or a sexual favor or things like that. Emotional abuse kind of goes into sexual abuse and physical abuse. Saying negative things about you or your appearance, making you feel as though you're not good enough to be with them. This could be an example of, like, if your boyfriend gets mad at you, he could say, "Well, I could go be with so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so instead of you." Like, that will physically and emotionally hurt you because those are things you don't want to hear and things your boyfriend shouldn't be saying to you. Or giving you the silent treatment after an argument. I think that's important, and I think that happens a lot. Like we had mentioned earlier, if you go to a basketball game with your friends and then your boyfriend decides to not talk to you for a week, you feel like you did something wrong, but in the great scheme of things, you didn't, and you shouldn't feel like that.
It's almost a way to punish you. Yeah. And so kind of curb that behavior, I guess. So then the next basketball game that comes up, you remember what it was like to be ignored for an entire week and to be a panic and be upset. So then guess what? You don't go to the next basketball game because you don't want to upset him and you don't want to go through what you did the last week.
Next slide. Intimidation, threats, and possessiveness, I think that all kinds of can tie into one. Examples would be attempts to punish you or make you feel bad for doing something like we had just talked about. Threatens you or your belongings. If your boyfriend or girlfriend is taking your phone and breaking it or smashing it or doing stuff to your car or things like that, those are not okay. Or threatens to send out explicit photos of you. This also ties into the digital abuse, and I think since social media is such a huge thing now, within teenagers, adults, I mean everyone, that is a huge thing, and your boyfriend or girlfriend, if you have sent them explicit photos, should never be threatening to send them out to other people or your parents or the principal or things like that. And those are things that you should alert someone about if that is happening. The digital abuse would be used social media as a way to harass you, stalk you, or bully you. We had talked about that, like if your boyfriend or girlfriend is demanding you send your location to them, or so they could constantly watch you or where you're at or what you're doing. Or even demand you to send them photos in general. If you don't feel comfortable with that and they're like always on you, like, please send me these photos, please send me these photos, please send me these photos, that is a sign of abuse. That is not okay. Possessiveness kind of goes back to the red flags we had talked about. That could even be attempting to control the clothes you wear, how much makeup you have on, the color of your hair, whether you cut your hair, whether you keep it long. Things like that are personal decisions and should not be based on what your boyfriend or girlfriend says to you. And then attempts to control who your friends are or where you go. That is, like we had talked about, that's like an alienation process. If they're not wanting you to go do things with your friends or do things with your family or things like that, that should be a huge red flag to you. These are just some important statistics that we have found. I think 1 in 10 high school students have been purposely hit, slapped, or physically hurt by a boyfriend or girlfriend. That is a very alarming number, I think, because of how many students are in high school. So if this has happened to you, now you kind of know more of, like, you're not alone and this does happen a lot more than it should. And then girls between the ages of 16 and 24 experience the highest rate of intimate partner violence. Only 33% of teens who are in a violent relationship ever told anyone about the abuse. I think it happens a lot, and some people don't even realize they're in an abusive relationship, which is why it never gets talked about or brought up or reported.
Or it could just be seen as like just normal for so-and-so and so-and-so. They fight like cats and dogs. This is what it is for them. I would encourage you to, if you find yourself in one of these relationships, to find a trusted friend, someone that you believe will support you and listen to you without being judgmental. You know, and it doesn't even have to be a friend. It could be a coach. It could be a teacher, a counselor, the principal, if you strike it off with them really well and you have a good relationship. Just basically someone that you can confide in and someone you feel comfortable talking to.
We can do the next slide. These are some more statistics. Violent behavior typically begins between the ages of 12 and 18, which I thought was even more alarming at first. I thought it'd be maybe more towards like 15 or 16, because at 12 you're getting into middle school and things like that. And then when we talk about like parents, most parents don't know that it happens as frequently as it does. And so though 82% of parents feel confident that they could recognize the signs if their child was experiencing dating abuse, the majority of parents, being 58%, could not correctly identify all the warning signs of abuse. And then 81% of parents believe teen dating violence is not an issue or admit that they did not realize it was such an issue. So that's what we were talking about with reaching out to your parents. If something like this is happening to you, don't feel embarrassed to go to your parents or don't think your parents are going to blame you. It's never the victim's fault, but it is something that your parents should know is happening and they should be able to recognize it.
I think it's also important to point out that if you find yourself or you know someone that is in a violent relationship, I don't think it's possible to have a violent relationship without having the red flags pop up in the very beginning. So be mindful of that, be looking for that. If you know, if you have a friend or you yourself is involved in one of these, to start being open to the education that's here, the information that's here for you, and try to get help. At least start talking to someone that can help you.
These are just some different resources that I had gotten some information about and I feel are very helpful. Loveisrespect.org, breakthecycle.org, and then youth.gov. All of these also have similar PowerPoints to this one and have different resources on them. So if you feel like, okay, maybe one of those red flags I mentioned could be me, or maybe this is happening to me, these are also websites you can go to and kind of learn a bit more about different things and ask questions and take quizzes on if you're in a violent relationship and things of that nature. And then like we had talked about, find someone that you feel confident in and you respect and tell them about what's happening to you. It could be your parents, coaches, guidance counselors at your school, teachers, friends, anyone. And then, of course, us at the Muncie Police Department Domestic Violence Unit.
The number for us is 747-4873 or 747-4874. You don't even have to tell us who you are. You can simply call and just talk with us or run some things by us. You know, ask us questions if you just need to talk. Please feel free to do so.